robust mobile interface as opposed to just really basic time capture. And so, they win on those aspects, but they lose to both Elite and to Aderant on the aspect of having something that is bidirectional and real time. What I mean by bidirectional? Well, if you have a time entry that you put in one system, and if it's really hitting the same database in an elegant way, then you're going to have a sync between that time entry component of the same product and the other product that is both in real time. It should be in real time or as virtually real time as possible. And you also want to be able to have it be bidirectional, so that if a time entry gets rejected in the other system for maybe being, double billing or billing, the wrong client or something. So somebody that's over on the billing side, somebody that sits in the finance accounting function that rejects a time entry because it's wrong. Well, if that's not a bidirectional sync, then it won't sync up correctly back on the time product. And so to have a product that automatically syncs back and forth and is always in balance with itself is, to me, the best. Now, remember, I worked for Aderant, so I kind of pitched this all the time. At the same time, when people would get into functionality and get into, how good something looks, we would lose on that oftentimes, but we would win on the fact that it's all of a piece. It's all built in one system. That's just an example of the trade-offs you have.
Yes, so that's really helpful. Could you talk maybe about the specific, the time management, the conflicts and matter intake, maybe Intapp versus Aderant and versus Elite, and maybe go through each one and talk about how different the functionality really is, how much better one is than the other, et cetera, just to really dig into what the trade-off is, and then maybe we can get into like the trends and where it's moving after that.
Sure, sounds good. So Aderant, I would say, and again, not just because I worked there, but Aderant, I believe, has focused more on building up closer to best-of-breed, robust functionality on the time entry. I would say that Elite kind of seeded the market, or kind of like gave up their place in the market. And so when you run into a firm that runs Elite, they're much more likely and much more open to having a lot of integrations. And Elite even created a product to deal with that, to basically deal with all the integrations that people were inevitably going to have. Because there's products out there for conflicts checking. There's products out there for doing expenses, expense reimbursement for attorneys, costs, taking people out to dinner, traveling, that kind of thing. There's all these different kind of add-on modules that different companies have put together. And Elite plays nicer, I would argue, with these other modules. Whereas Aderant, while they allow you to use another system for time, they have done, I think, a better job of trying to come up with robust, super functional products on time entry. That's an example. Now, on conflict checking and new matter intake, Aderant has tried to do that, but they have hitched their wagon to, I think, kind of an ugly Microsoft Dynamics based, or Microsoft something, whatever Microsoft's kind of generic workflow engine is. Aderant has basically taken that Microsoft workflow engine and productized it for Aderant's law firm specific use cases and tried to make that work. So Aderant's conflict checking and new matter intake module is clunky. It's fairly difficult to use from an IT perspective. It's kind of ugly from a user perspective and not as functional. The reports that it spits out on conflict checking are both too comprehensive and also not actionable enough. Intapp has mastered the art of having a elegant, smart, and I put smart in quotations, basically think like AI light or machine learning light, but Intapp has incorporated some light elements of machine learning into their new matter intake and conflicts checking, and they've created a very elegant. Now, the product that they have created I'm not sure what they use. If they use like a